All right, let's get right into it. There's this massive financial question that hangs over, well, pretty much everything for millions of us. Is renting just a normal part of life, or is it actually a silent trap, one that costs you a fortune over the long haul? Today, we're going to break down the math that, nobody ever seems to show you. So picture this. Let's just say you're 29 years old. You're right in the thick of it, building your career, building your life, and trying to make all the right moves. And you're doing everything you're supposed to do, right? You've got a good job, making around 70 grand a year. You're smart with your money, you stay away from bad debt, and you are disciplined. I mean, you're putting cash into savings every single month. By all measures, you're being totally responsible. But even with all of that hard work, the dream of actually buying a home, it just seems to get further and further away. It feels impossible. Sound familiar? If you've ever felt that frustration, trust me, you are not alone. And here's the thing, it's not your fault. It's about the system we're all playing in. And this is the number at the very heart of it all. $300,000. That's the potential wealth gap, backed by tons of housing data that can open up between someone who rents and someone who owns. It's like the hidden price tag on your lease. So how in the world do we get to a number that big? Let's unpack it. Okay, to make this feel real, let's stop talking about abstract numbers and look at a real-world example. I want you to meet Alex. His story, well, it's a story playing out in cities all across the country right now. So Alex is 29, makes around $72,000 a year. After taxes, after his 401k, his take-home pay is about $4,800 a month. And look at his budget. He's got it locked down. $2,000 for rent, a big chunk. Then you've got his student loan, his car, all his living expenses. And at the end of all that, he still manages to sock away about $400. He feels like he's doing a pretty good job. So if Alex is doing everything right, where's the problem? What's going on here? The issue isn't his discipline at all. It's the hidden financial engine, or lack thereof, inside his single biggest expense, that $2,000 rent check he writes every month. And that brings us to the core idea here, a concept that honestly changes everything once you really see it. We need to talk about the huge difference between wealth transfer and wealth creation. See, here's the thing. Your rent payment isn't just a neutral expense like your Netflix subscription or your phone bill. It is a wealth transfer. Every single month, that $2,000 you're paying is going directly to build your landlord's asset. It pays down their mortgage, it increases their equity, it gives them tax breaks, all while you get, well, a temporary roof over your head. Now, let's look at how this plays out over just 10 years. It's pretty wild. On one hand, if Alex keeps renting, that's $240,000 in payments. Just gone. Poof. It's a pure expense, vanished into thin air. But if he'd bought a modest home instead, a big chunk of every single payment would be building his own equity, not to mention the house itself appreciating in value, which we know happens based on decades of market data. And that is how we get back to our big number. Based on all that historical data, the difference, that gap in net worth between the owner and the renter after a decade, can easily be more than $300,000. That's the equity gap. And it's not about having a fancier house. It's about having a financial engine working for you instead of for someone else. Okay, so if the math seems so clear, why do so many smart people stay stuck in the rent cycle? Well, the answer's all in our heads. It's psychology. We are literally wired with these mental biases that make renting feel safer. You've got loss aversion, that terrifying feeling of what if I buy at the absolute peak of the market? Then there's mental accounting, where we just file rent away in our brain as a normal, non-negotiable bill. And of course, there's the big one, convenience. Not having to deal with a broken water heater is nice, but that convenience comes with a really, really high price tag. But hold on, we have to pump the brakes for a second and add a really important, very timely caveat here. Because that classic buy versus rent math, it doesn't always work, especially not right now. The market we're in today has thrown a major wrench into the whole equation. And this is a key takeaway from a lot of recent analysis. I'm just going to read this directly. The high interest rates and prices of the 2026 market have shifted the mathematical advantage toward leasing in many regions. Okay, so what does that actually mean for you and me? Well, this chart explains it perfectly. Just look at the monthly payment for the exact same $350,000 house. At a 3% interest rate, your payment is, manageable. But at 7%? Wow, that same mortgage is suddenly hundreds, maybe even $1,000 more every single month. And in some expensive cities, that spike can make the monthly cost of owning so much higher than renting that in the short term, renting actually becomes the cheaper option. So, what's the takeaway? Clearly, there is no one-size-fits-all answer here. It totally depends on where you live. The only way to really know what's right for you is to run the numbers on your own local market. So, to help with that, we've put together a super simple 5-step framework you can use to test your own city. Okay, here we go. Step 1. Calculate your rent-to-income ratio. Step 2. Do a little digging into the historical home price appreciation right there in your neighborhood. Step 3. Get a real mortgage pre-approval so you can compare the total monthly payment, that's what we call PITI, for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and see how it stacks up against local rent. 4. Don't forget about the extra costs of owning, like repairs and maintenance. And finally, number 5. Be really honest with yourself about your timeline. This whole calculation really only pencils out if you're planning on staying in one place for at least 5 years, probably more. So where does all this leave us? Look, renting is convenient. It's flexible. Nobody's denying that. But it's so important to understand that convenience is not free. In fact, over the long run, it just might be one of the most expensive things you ever buy. The first step is just seeing the numbers clearly. That way, you can make a choice that's right for you instead of just doing what everyone else does. If this breakdown was helpful, make sure to subscribe so you can get the full analysis and that city checklist we mentioned.